today to the introductory webinar on the NAPCORE project, the Mobility Data Platform Coordination Organization. Before we start going into the project, I would quickly like to present to you a few a little bit of background information. First off, I mean, you're all connected to this webinar, but in case you have trouble with your bandwidth, you can also dial in with your phone as a back option. So please check your control panel for that. The other slide I wanted to show you is, as this is a webinar, you're all muted by default, so you will not be able to take the floor. You can pose questions in your control panel, which we will then answer towards the end of this webinar. We will have a Q&A session at the end. And you may also raise your hand, and then we could unmute you, but we would only do that at the end of the webinar. Before we get going, I quickly want to introduce myself. My name is Marcel Braun from Ruprecht Consult. We are heading the project secretariat of the NAPCORE project, and I will be your moderator today. We have a packed agenda, and we have 1 hour time. So I quickly wanted to show you who will be presenting today, and I would not want to waste too much time by reading this out because it has also been announced with the invitation. So I would immediately hand over to Christian Hedberg from the European Commission to address a few opening words for this webinar. Christian, yes, you are welcome to take part.
Many thanks, Marcel, and a very good morning to everybody. And thanks a lot for inviting the Commission to this occasion as well. Well, today's public event has been organized precisely to inform as many stakeholders as possible about this very important project. Those of you who engage often with the European Commission will have noticed that we mention NAPCORE very frequently, as we have high expectations of this CEF-funded, Connecting Europe Facility-funded program support action. Some of you will remember how in Hamburg last October at the ITS World Congress we kicked off the journey. The biggest accomplishment so far is that all member states have been involved in the project proposal and have a role to play during NAPCORE's lifetime, which is something we were really hoping for. Furthermore, industry stakeholders are also invited to engage through the advisory board that will be part of this project. Now that the ITS has left its infancy behind and is coming of age, it is all the more important that we continue to work together in a coordinated way. Also, thanks to the NAPCORE project, we are happy to see a number of activities coming together, which were done in relative isolation before. For example, different standardization activities and preparation of data collection. Now that they are placed under the same proverbial umbrella, if you wish, the opportunities to exchange knowledge, coordinate actions, and develop joint initiatives will undoubtedly manifest themselves more and more. NAPCORE has the acronym NAP embedded in its name. The national access points are the cornerstone for the exchange of data under the ITS directive and the related delegated regulations. And since the adoption of the ITS directive now more than 10 years ago, and the adoption of the European specifications during the last decade, member states have developed and deployed their national access points to facilitate the discovery and exchange of ITS-related data. Although it did not happen overnight, we are happy to see that all the required national access points are in place, and many member states have plans to further develop them and extend their functionality. This will surely make the NAPs even more relevant to public authorities and industry stakeholders alike. The mantra that better access to data will improve services might have been oversold in the past decade, but time and again, studies show evidence that the benefits are there to be reaped, and this was most recently demonstrated in the impact assessment that we did for the revision of the ITS directive. It demonstrated how time saved and increased traffic safety are projected to save billions of euro. This is precisely the reason why NAPCORE is so important for the ITS community. The harmonization of these access points and related data collection and standardization activities will further accelerate data reuse, allowing service providers to provide better cross-border services, new innovative solutions. So the authorities will see more added value to their data creation activities, the investments that go into it, as this data often reflect their transport policy priorities. And ultimately, road and multimodal users will be better served in terms of traffic and travel information, road safety, and travel comfort. With NAPCORE, we hope to address the challenges related to data collection, standardization, and exchange. These activities go hand in hand with the recently adopted revision of the delegated regulation on real-time traffic information services, RTTI for those who prefer acronyms in the EU context, and the current proposal for the revision of the ITS directive. Those of you who have seen these texts will have noticed the ambition to extend the geographical scope of data collection to more roads, in some cases to the whole road network, and to work on the availability of crucial data types and essential services. Digitalization of the transport sector remains a key priority if we want to create a strong European digital sector, and we therefore believe this level of ambition is necessary. I really hope this ambition will also carry over to all the participants in NAPCORE, not only to the member states, but also to the industry involved in the advisory board. We need you all, each and every one, to participate in order to make NAPCORE a success. And I hope that today will mark a stepping stone towards this successful future. And with that, Marcel, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Christian, for your introductory words and for setting the scene for this webinar. I would now immediately hand over to Anna Rack from the Swedish Transport Administration, who is head of the NAPCORE steering committee, to also provide some information.
Thank you, Marcel, and good morning, everybody. Well, like I was already introduced, my name is Anna Johansson-Jax. I'm from the Swedish Transport Administration, and I also hold the chair position of the NAPCORE steering committee from January through June this year. And in this role, I would like to welcome you to today's event on behalf of the NAPCORE steering committee. I would also like to take the opportunity to just say a few words about NAPCORE in general and the steering committee specifically. The numbers of partners engaged in NAPCORE, both EU member states and others, truly show the interest and the ambition to move the national access points towards interoperability and harmonization. Every operator of a national access point has the goal to share mobility data to the benefit of the users. But we also know that many users provide or want to use data from more than one country. And for this, interoperability of the national access points and harmonized data standards across borders is key. With the strength of NAPCORE as an organizational platform, this goal can be achieved. Of course, this requires strategic direction. And as the main decision-making body within NAPCORE, this is the task of the steering committee. The task to provide strategic guidance for the different activities and working groups towards the common objective, namely the harmonization of the national access point and also national bodies in Europe. The NAPCORE steering committee consists of one representative for each of the 36 participating parties which includes all member states of the European Union. The steering committee will have the important task to discuss, to align, and to organize the national positions on different recommendations brought forward by the activities and the working groups in the project. And in this, we are aiming at full consensus for all our decisions. And this is important because we really want to give NAPCORE's recommendations credibility. Additionally, the steering committee will also consider strategic advice provided by the very important advisory board, which represents a width of experience in the mobility data ecosystem. Especially for decisions which may have a long-term strategic perspective reaching beyond the project runtime, a common understanding and high level of consensus will be very important and essential. So to ensure proper decision in this regard, special focus will be given to strategic decisions which are likely to have an impact on EU policy that concerns the national access points and national bodies. In an ambition project like NAPCORE, aligning the multitude of perspectives will really be challenging. But by having the steering committee work in a way that allows everybody to raise their concern, that gives the opportunity to discuss the work and the results of the NAPCORE activities and working groups, and that also highlights the strategic implications. We really hope to establish ways of open communication between all players in NAPCORE to enable good consensus building from the start and to achieve the needed quality of the strategic guidance to the project. And with that said, we are ready to support the progress of this important project and its contribution to mobility data exchange in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna, for providing the background from the steering committee perspective. I would then now hand over to Timo Hoffmann, who is the project coordinator, the general secretary of the project from the Federal Highway Research Institute in Germany, to provide you with a general overview of the project, its vision and its strategy. And I'll make you the presenter now so you can show your screen, and there you will kick off with a video, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I'll start off with a short video, and then I'll start with my presentation. So Thank you everyone for joining again. My name is Tim Hoffmann. I'm the General Secretary of NAPCORE, and I want to give you, on top of the short video that already gave a short summary of what NAPCORE is all about, a little bit more of an insight of how NAPCORE works and its vision and strategy. So there's many national access points in Europe. Of course, every member state is having did set up a national access point, possibly more. But there are various types of national access points, various styles and architectures. There's different access interfaces and standards used. The data available looks different, is different. It's hard to find and get data on an international level. Also, it's hard to provide data on a multinational level. Sometimes it's unclear what data standards and formats to use and to provide data. The data provision regulations are sometimes unknown. No common data quality criteria at the national access points are there. The requirements for self-declarations is very often not known. Different processes for national access point and national bodies exist. And the relationship between national access points and the mobility data space, for example, is not known. So many questions and issues are out there. And this is exactly where NAPCORE comes in to work on these. As has been mentioned before, NAPCORE is indeed pan-European. We have a very good coverage throughout Europe, even over the EU member states. All in all, there's 33 partners, 37 implementing bodies, and 3 associated partners. Most of them are involved on a ministry level or as with their national road authorities. Sometimes we have road operators, mostly on national level. We have international organizations. So the coverage is really pan-European and wide, and on a high level, really concerning those operators of the national access points. As has been said before, it's co-funded by the European Commission as a program support action. Now, what are the goals? And they've been briefly already mentioned in the video. We do want to coordinate the national access points and the national bodies. We have several goals. The first one, I would say, is indeed to facilitate the EU-wide coordination of national access points and national bodies for the harmonization of the implementation of the European specifications on the ITS directive. So this is really on organization level. We now have a platform where we, as national access point operators, can get together and discuss those topics that concern us. On a technical level, we do want to increase interoperability by further establishing standards and recommendations for data exchange formats, for data content, data access, data availability in the whole mobility domain in Europe. Now, we also do want to empower the national access points as the backbone of the ITS digital infrastructure and mobility data exchange in Europe, because they're already there, they are mandated with their role, and we can really raise that potential. Also, we do want to address existing and upcoming developments and challenges in this regard with a joint European strategy, vision, and voice. So these are basically the goals that NAPCORE has, and I don't want to go into too much detail on the governance and working structure here. And throughout the presentations today, we won't go into detail what exactly each working group does and so on, but just quickly to name the main bodies of NAPCORE. First and foremost, as Anna has already presented and introduced, we have the steering committee as uppermost highest level of NAPCORE. We have horizontal activities, of course, and working groups. The first working groups, just very quickly, the first one is dealing with how we, as a group of national access points and national bodies, how can we form strategies, common strategies towards EU policies or other stakeholders, and how do we self-govern ourselves. The second and third is about interoperability, level of services, content, and accessibility. Later we'll hear a little bit more about that. Also, we'll hear about the data exchange standards working group. There we have several sub-working groups to cover some of the existing data standards in the field, and so this is mostly the largest you have. Lastly, the national bodies and compliance assessment, will briefly dip into that as well. And then, of course, we have the advisory board, also that will be discussed a little later. So just to summarize, the really main important thing is that we do want to coordinate all national access points in Europe on an organization level. But we also, wherever possible, through NAPCORE, the national access points and national bodies throughout Europe will jointly work and establish common recommendations on data exchange technology, standards, formats, processes used at the national access points. Furthermore, the improvements of interoperability, we do, wherever possible, facilitate common data discoverability and accessibility, thus enabling pan-European services. And lastly, we do want to define common strategies concerning existing and upcoming developments, creating a one voice of the national access points in Europe. That is very quickly the general overview of NAPCORE, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into some topics. The next one, I'd like to introduce Chrysostomos from Greece, talking about national access point interoperability, data content, and accessibility.
Thank you very much, Timo. Good morning to all of you. My name is Chrysostomos Milonas, and I am a research associate from the Hellenic Institute of Transport from the Center of Research and Technology, Hellas. Today, I will try to provide a very brief overview of the activities planned to take place in the context of two working groups of the project. With regards to working group 2, titled Interoperability and Level of Service, there are three main objectives. The first one is to enhance the compatibility and interoperability of national access point features by defining minimum conditions and coordinating their evolution. The second objective, is to enhance the level of service of NAPs, which will be achieved by analyzing and harmonizing NAP architectures towards the suggestion of a common reference architecture. The final objective is to demonstrate improve the level of service at a pan-European level through the execution of interoperability demonstrators involving the cross-border cooperation of several European national access points. These objectives will be achieved through 4 tasks taking place throughout, almost throughout the duration of the project. Next slide, please. Now, the next working group 3 to be carried out in the context of the project, relates to the content and accessibility of NAPs. And here we can spot 8 objectives. The first one is to support member states towards a common understanding on the current and future content of European national access point. The second and third objective relates to the monitoring and assessment of data availability in European national access points, and subsequently the identification of any gaps and the provision of guidelines aiming at their mitigation. The next objective is to set a robust framework for the evaluation or even the certification of NAP's data quality. Next, it is our purpose to investigate commonly accepted frameworks and technical options to achieve fair, trusted, and enhanced accessibility to ITS-related data, involving, among others, the creation of visualization tools to be used by NAP actors and the clarifications of the terms and conditions for NAP data reuse. A significant objective of this working group is also the enhanced use of NAPs in key application areas through the demonstration of specific added value scenarios for its application area. The common point in these added value scenarios will be the utilization of data hosted or accommodated by national access points. Finally, there is an objective related to the alignment of the achievements in this working group with the remaining activities of the project, including training. So thank you very much, and looking forward to share with you our achievements in the future.
Thank you very much, Chrysostomos, for presenting to us the work of Working Group 3 in this project. I would like to hand over now to Bart de Vries, who is the leader of the Sub-Working Group 4.1, to provide you an overview on the NAPCORE Net Mobility Data Exchange Standard Harmonization. Bart, I'm handing over to you now. as you will be showing the presentation from your own screen. And I'll switch my camera and microphone off.
Thank you, Marcel. My name is Bart de Vries. I'm leader of the NAPCORE Subworking Group 4.1, the DATEX2 working group. And I'm in my daily work, I'm lead architect of the National Road Traffic Data Portal in the Netherlands, formerly known as the National Data Warehouse. I'm gonna discuss with you the mobility data standards harmonization outcomes of the NAPCORE project. We all know that we have travelers that have travel and trip wishes to travel through Europe, and we want to support them with adequate data regarding their trip in all different modes that are available. And to do that, as already explained by the previous speakers, we have the delegated regulations that are realizing what is in the ITS directive, and we have 4 relevant ones here at the moment, and the 5th is on the verge of being reintroduced by the revised ITS directive, and that is with regard to the reservation of safe and secure truck parking. But the safety related traffic information, the real-time traffic information, and the multimodal traveler information services are already in place and currently under revision, and they bring us a lot of different data sets. They are called data categories, data types, and to be honest, they have a wide variety, and that's what we see here. There are over 50 data categories off the top of my head, and they all have one thing in common. They all relate to a location. And furthermore, they have a lot of other domain-specific content, and that's visualized by the domains that you can see in this circle. We have the public transport and alternative modes data sets. We have the rail, specific rail data, we have specific air data, and we have the road traffic and travel information. And these data categories, they share information that it is for the end user is comparable. When we talk about tariffs or pricing or rates, that's different names for the same thing. They are materialized by ticketing. There are payment options involved. There are reservation options. We have fees, we have penalties. We have vehicle characteristics. We have many information elements that are more or less the same, shattered over the ecosystem of the mobility data standards. And the challenge for us is to find what is going on in the different standards. And one additional one is, of course, the infrastructure on which all this transport takes place, the infrastructure in terms of physical infrastructure networks, the road network, the rail network, the air network, and the regulations that are in place, the legal constructs with regard of traffic rules in the air, on the floor, on the ground, how to behave in an orderly way. And this all is expressed in a digital way. And our challenge as NAPCORE is that we come to a coherent set of the core standards, because in the delegated regulations, there are standards mentioned, as reference standards. The European Commission has funded already over a long period of time the development of several standards to accommodate the seamless information provision cross-border throughout Europe. But what we see now as a new challenge is that it is not only in the silos of the different modes where we came from should be able to be provided in an interoperable way, but now we also need the interoperability among the standards, between the standards, because of the examples I just gave you. And the core standards of DATEX are the Transmodal NETEX suite of standards. They are mainly focusing on the public transport and mobility information as such. We have the DATEX2 set of standards. They are mostly referring to the data provision in the road traffic domain. And we have the TNITS standards. That is a standard that is now new in the delegated regulations, and it addresses the provision of changes in the static road attributes with regard to the traffic regulations I just mentioned before. And on top of this, we need a metadata standard in NAPCORE. Already explained by the previous speakers that the findability and the accessibility and how the interoperability is organized needs to be reflected in a standard that is providing you the meta information of the data sets throughout on the NAPs and throughout Europe in a harmonized and standardized way. This will be a major contribution to providing this services in a cross-border seamless way by the service providers to the end users. And it is our challenge as NAPCORE to organize the overlaps in the standards in a way that all this information is coherent and interoperable throughout the entire value chain of data provision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bart, for this summary. I would now immediately hand over to our last speaker today, which is Damaris Gruber. She's the Deputy General Secretary of the project. She's from AustriaTech, and she'll give you an introduction to the national bodies harmonization and the NAPCORE Advisory Board, which she's heading. Damaris, will you be presenting from your own screen, or should we show your presentation?
I can share them, Marcel.
Thank you, Timo.
Okay, so I'll make you the presenter then, Timo.
So, thank you very much, Marcel. My name is Damaris Anna Gruber, and I'm from AustriaTech. In NAPCORE, I'm responsible as Deputy General Secretary for the support of the steering committee and the management of the advisory board. And I'm also responsible for the harmonization of the compliance assessment, which should be carried out by the national bodies or competent authorities. First of all, I would like to give you just a brief insight what we are aiming for related to the harmonization of compliance assessment, which is required by all of the four-mentioned delegated regulations we just heard in advance. So the national body or a competent authority of the member states are responsible for assessing if the data and service provision is compliant with the requirements of the delegated regulations. Next slide. Our objective is here to harmonize forms, for example, the self-declaration forms, or provide templates for supporting documents, to create common process or process elements, and also harmonized reporting towards the member states and towards the European Commission related to the compliance assessment. We are aiming also for providing supporting material in order to provide useful consulting material for affected organizations who often have questions related to the requirements of the delegated regulations. We are also aiming to commonly address international data holders and service providers to share their data and services as required by the delegated regulations, and we hope as national bodies and competent authorities that we can have some kind of multiplier effect here to make data available. Additionally, we are also dealing with developing actions or strategies, what to do in case of non-compliance. This is currently a topic which there are no recommendations across the EU countries. So that is what we are aiming for related to the compliance assessment. And the next topic I would like to address is what opportunities do you have for getting involved in NAPCORE, and also what we are aiming for related to outreach activities. As NAPCORE is a very important harmonization project in Europe, we are well aware in the ITS mobility data system that it is important to stay close to all the stakeholders and to stay in contact with the experts and to keep all interested parties informed related to our results and achievements. So there are 3 different levels where one could get involved into the NAPCORE project. We've set it up in order to create a flexibility related to the involvement. On the upper level, we have the NAPCORE advisory board. Here we have a structured process where we are addressing associations that we regard of importance related to our NAPCORE strategic positions and decisions. Then we have the second level where experts are able to contribute to specific workshops or work items of the working groups. And then we have the lower level where we are giving broad information and outreach to different people who are interested in the NAPCORE results. Related to the advisory board, the next slide will give you a short overview. What is the scope and what would we expect from an advisory board member? So with the advisory board, we expect to receive strategic advice related to all the NAPCORE activities. We hope that the advisory board will work with us together towards the common objectives and vision of NAPCORE of making data accessible and available across Europe for the development of services. We also would expect that the NAPCORE findings and results would be promoted and also disseminated within their own sectoral network of the advisory board members. At first hand side, we would expect an involvement on a regular basis of the advisory board members, mainly related to strategic topics, like, for example, the setting up of the long-term governance structure of national access points, coordination, additional options for data access or usage, but also the identification of new or specific sectoral issues which have strategic importance of NAPCORE. We also would like to discuss with the advisory board possible steps related to the integration of national access points into the future European mobility data space. On the next slide, we briefly describe who could be possible members of the advisory board. So a member should be a representative of a multi-stakeholder group with a European interest. We are aiming to involve associations which are actually covering a specific sector that we regard as an important sector related to the ITS mobility ecosystem. We also would expect that the member would have the ability to communicate sectoral positions to NAPCORE and also the other way around. And of course, it would be important that the availability of resources and also the participation in 1 or 2 meetings a year is possible. Currently, we are in the status of already addressing specific associations that we regard to be important as advisory board members, and we are also going to reach out to them for bilateral discussions related to expectations and possible input related to the advisory board within the upcoming weeks. On the next slide, you can see that we are also planning to involve individual experts on a more related working level in the working groups. Here we are also planning to set up some kind of process so that experts can state interest and that they can participate in selected workshops or work items upon invitation of the working groups. Beside this, we are also aiming to address a broader level of interested participants. Next slide, please. With our outreach and also with our training activities. So there are concepts which are going to be set up for trainings related also to standardization topics, like, for example, DATEX2, and also user support related to the usage of the national access points. Here, trainings will be organized and distribution will happen on a broad manner. NAPCORE is also planning to be present at regular external events, and we're also aiming for having yearly multi-day events with public parts, which are available to all interested people in the ITS data mobility environment. The first multi-day event is currently envisaged to happen in November in France. Next slide, please. So we have several channels that you can currently use in order to stay in contact with us. We have a LinkedIn group where you're well invited to join. And you can also visit our website and have a look at the video, and as well this public event which we are holding today will be shared via our YouTube channel. If you have specific questions or requirements, you can always contact us via the email address napcore@bast.de. Thank you very much, and with that I hand over back to Marcel.
Thank you very much, Damaris, for this final presentation and the summary of the work of the advisory board as well. As you can see in the agenda, we now have time for questions and answers, and I've seen already that a few questions have been posted, and I'm going to read them out, and then somebody from the team will provide an answer. You will also have the possibility to raise your hand, but please first post here, and then we can see whether you should also formulate a question that everybody understands it. So I'm going to read out the first question, which has been sent in by Frauke Quick from the Netherlands. How will you ensure that you get enough input from public transport, and more specifically heavy rail, with the additional comment whether we are aware that heavy rail, especially international heavy rail, is not using any TX, nor does it want to use it. So that might be a question that you could answer, Bart, because it was also posted while you gave the presentation. If you would want to take the floor to answer that one, or anybody else from the group.
Yes, I'm willing to answer that one, Marcel. The challenge of the collecting the data and making the data available on the NAPs is really a challenge in itself, and it's going to be addressed by NAPCORE, of course. And for the long distance rail, we know that there are other regulations in place that prescribe the provision of the data in the top TSI format. And fortunately, we've done in the past already a big technical exercise, very deep detail, that where we explored the interoperability of this standard to the with the NetX standard, and it's not strictly coincidental, but it is there. The interoperability is there, so it is expressible in both. It's transferable in both directions. That's the good thing. The other thing is that we are very well aware of communities that have their own standards, and the NAPCORE ecosystem is also asked by the Commission to see whether other standards should be adopted as core standard for NAPCORE data provision, NAP data provision. And if we can come to agreement among the partners in the NAPCORE consortium that other standards are to be accepted, or modifications to existing standards to be better interoperable with the other kind of standards shall be achieved, we will do that. That's the process of accommodating as much the data source, the data sources in providing the data in a format that fits their own producing requirements and also fits in the larger ecosystem of mobility data standards that are aligned and enable the outcomes as desired by the policies of the European Commission.
Thank you very much, Bart, for providing this answer. There's another question that which I'm going to read out. Road and travel data cover a great part of the 50 data categories. How will the road operators, administrations, be involved as data suppliers at EU organization level? So that's about involvement. Damaris, is that a question you could provide an answer to?
Yeah, thank you, Marcel. Related to the road operators, of course, we have quite a lot covered here already by the involvement of the member states and also by the implementing bodies who are already participating in the project itself. And beside this, of course, the road operators which are not involved in the project are on one of our top level of sectors that we need to involve also in the advisory board. And here we of course are aiming to involve associations which have the ability to speak in terms of interests of the road operators.
Thank you very much, Damaris. There's another question on data itself. What about the standardization and harmonization of cycling data, and what are our expectations on this issue? And there's maybe a related question, given the rapid growth in active travel modes such as cycling and the associated investment by our governments, how will active travel data be categorized within our proposed structure? It was not referenced yet in our scheme. Who would want to take these two questions on cycling data? Timo?
Yeah, thanks. Maybe I can just add a few words on it. Indeed, we did not dive into the various domains that national access points cover with their data. So this was, of course, one of those examples. I first would like to mention that we have as a partner in NAPCORE, we have UITP, which is an organization that covers multimodal aspects and public transport aspects. So that's maybe one thing that was not mentioned, which is worth mentioning. That's for one thing. Then in regards to data in this field, we have a sub-working group called multimodal data that does indeed look into various domains of data that is not covered, for example, by DATEX2 or TNITS. So of course this will be covered here, and also here we as NAPCORE will likely not come up with new standards. This is not what we want to do. We will look at the market and look at the available data in the various member states and so on to see what's out there and what could be used as a recommendation also for the whole Europe. This is the other thing. Then, of course, we, as Damaris mentioned, we do want to involve stakeholders of various sectors, and so this active travel modes could also be covered as with an organization on ideally on a European level in the advisory board. That would be another option, and then we have the possibility to involve experts in this field also on a working group level. So there's various possibilities to get involved and to raise positions. Everyone is of course able to raise issues or their priorities, preferences, concerns, and so on with their national partner of NAPCORE. So that would be another option of how to get your voice heard. So I think that was a few pointers. And I just want to give one last remark that, as you've heard, the scope is quite large in NAPCORE, and it's really hard to cover everything at the very first moment. We just started at the end of last year, so we'll set ourselves up. So in terms of expectations, please bear with us. We'll start to get working, or we have already started with the work, and we'll hope to get there soon, also covering those topics that were mentioned now in the question. Thanks.
Timo, maybe you can stay, because there's another question on the objectives of the project. There's the question whether the national access points will become something more than just a collection of web links with metadata. I'm sure you will have an answer to that one.
Well, yes and no. It is indeed a good question. Well, as I've said before, we have various kinds of national access points in Europe, and there are indeed some national access points that are metadata repositories with listing resources, data resources with links. We have other types of national access points which also provide data and broker data and so on. What task of working group 2 and 3 will be is indeed to see, okay, what is the status? How can we make sure that we improve interoperability and discoverability? So even if there are national access points listing resources with links, that using state-of-the-art technology, this data still is discoverable on a international pan-European manner, discoverable or maybe even accessible with international services. So yes, it will be there will be definitions on how to improve those level of services to make sure that we are more interoperable, even if the national access point architecture is that of a metadata repository.
Thank you very much, Timo. There have been some additional questions. One is, what will be the collaboration with the STF Working Group 2? That also talks about the national access points. A collaboration question. Timo, you want to take that one, or Damaris? The collaboration with the STF Working Group?
Damaris, go ahead. You want?
With the STF Working Group?
Yes, STF Working Group 2, a question put forward by Cor Melker.
I might need a little bit more information on that one, actually.
Let's see, Cor, whether we can unmute you, and then you can ask your question in more detail. We still have a couple of minutes. There's another raised hand, which I've seen, which we can take. Cor, I'm going to need to find you on the list. We have almost 200 people. And then I can unmute you. All right. I've unmuted you, Cor, so you can probably elaborate your question again.
Yeah, am I understandable?
Yes.
Yeah, the STF Working Group is also something from DG Move, and it reflects the whole situation regarding alternative fuels, and in this case, the electric charging stations, where there's a work group of 20 experts dealing with the whole topic of the NAP regarding electric vehicle charging stations information. So I was wondering how you involve the experts that are there busy with that topic, involve them in the general NAPCORE project.
Okay, now I understand in what direction the question goes. Yes, I can confirm we are well aware of that. That also related to different data categories, the national access points are a topic, and that those data categories should also be involved and displayed there. And I can assure you that we have that on the topic, and this is also one of the sectors or areas that we are having an eye on, and we will do our best to integrate and involve this also in our considerations, and we'll be very happy to have a look at that as well. So yes, I can confirm this is of course of importance and will be dealt with.
Thank you very much, Damaris. I'm going to unmute now Johan Jesenk, who has raised his hand. Johan, you may put forward your question. You can now click on your microphone next to your name, and then we'll be able to hear you. Does that work? Okay, while that doesn't work, I'm going to read out another question that has been sent in by Vijay Mani, whether we are going to start any new program in 2022. I'm also not exactly sure what is meant by any new program. We probably would need some more details on that too. Let's try with Vijay whether we can unmute you, and then you can put forward your question in more detail. We can hear you. Vijay, if you would want to put forward your question. We were able to hear you, but can't hear you anymore. Okay, that doesn't work out. So then there has been one other question sent in by Frauke again. Are you going to solve the reference data issue, e.g. location, that different organizations use different reference data for the same location, and that they might even use different formats for these codes? Who would be able to take this question? Would it be you again, Bart? Take this question about the reference data issue?
Yeah, that's a major challenge. The basis, many studies have proven already that the key aspect of the interoperability challenge is the location referencing, and we are facing a situation where we have many different standards addressing the same physical concept out on the street and the road, and it would be really an achievement of NAPCORE if we can come to an agreement that at least we share the position that we take one reference standard as a core agreement, that it should be used in all data sets available using a standard to enable the location. There are good reasons that there are different standards for the location referencing. It's a point of view on how the viewpoint that you take on the physical object is different usually, and it's stemming from other different use cases in the past, and we have to converge there. That's for sure. That's was addressed as one of the major topics to address when we started the NAPCORE consortium building. So yes, we are going to face that challenge, but it is not so much a technical issue, it's an implementation issue, because in technical terms, it's usually doable, but it needs to be implemented in the data provisioning systems. And yeah, we will elaborate on what the impact of such a decision will be. And we have the ability to propose additional calls to the Commission to achieve the desired outcomes of NAPCORE, and could be that this is one of them.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Bart. We have 10 o'clock now, so I would like to end the meeting, but I would like to hand over quickly again to Timo, coordinator, to end this meeting. And I know there have been 2 more questions, so please send it to us through the regular channels that have been posted in the chat. But Timo, I'll hand over to you for some bye-bye words.
Yes, thank you, Marcel, and thanks everyone for joining. And it's great to see such an interest in NAPCORE. We ourselves, of course, believe it is a very vital project, which has or will have quite a lot of impact in the future. So please get involved, stay in contact. We've listed several opportunities to get in contact and stay in contact. Looking forward to further interactions with you, either in the work with as an advisory board member, or as experts, or just as an interested stakeholder following us on LinkedIn, or visiting our websites occasionally. So please feel welcome to do so. Looking forward to the work together with you, and thanks a lot for joining, and see you soon. Bye.